Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice and Great Life. And today we're just going to dig into both of those things, building a great practice and building a great life. And I have a long-term friend, a bar leader in Florida, a successful attorney who built and sold a practice against all odds, who has really transformed some of the challenges in her life to being huge assets and becoming an advocate for her client. And so today I have Teresa Morgan. Teresa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Steve. I'm honored to be here, truly.
I'm thrilled to have you here. And you have done a lot of work. And when we're talking about this podcast, there are three topics that you and I wrestled with. So I'm probably going to bring you back on two more. Because one is that you built a practice in a rural community. So just talk a little bit about that for a minute. And before I even go there, let's tell everybody where you're at so they can get a sense of who you are and what you're doing. Because I'm all excited about having you here. So let's just do the basics. Where do you practice? What's going on in your life?
Well, my practice is in North Florida, right under the Georgia border. But I'm living right now in just south of Richmond, Virginia. And the background I have here is virtual. I don't have big buildings out of my window, actually. I'm in a beautiful woodsy neighborhood in the hills of Virginia.
You got the two practice marriages out of the way.
Exactly. We're living out the soap opera now. Okay. Husband number 3. I had met him in the gym at Gainesville Health and Fitness when I was in law school. And we've now been married for 35 years.
No, I saw.
So there's a happy ending to that story. And he adopted my son. So we're all a happy family.
That's fantastic.
But he lived in Gainesville. He was a firefighter and owned a couple of independent bookstores in Gainesville. And so his work was in Gainesville and I was living in Tallahassee. And something in the back of our minds was, we'd really like to just have a house on a river somewhere. So we found some property on the Swanee River and built a home there. In the middle of nowhere, the closest town was Lake City, Florida, which is about 30 miles away. And I thought, well, I'll find a job in Lake City. So I applied at the biggest law firm in town, which means they had 5 lawyers. Lake City's not large, and it really wasn't large back then. And went to work in that law firm and hated it. I handled, as you can imagine, this is a general practice law firm. I was low man on the totem pole. I handled a lot of divorces, a lot of just yucky stuff. And the couple of the lawyers in the practice smoked cigarettes, and it was just driving me crazy because I smelled like cigarettes all the time. And I was scared to death to leave because I didn't know anyone in Lake City. We were from that community. I had no ties to Lake City. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but we built this house here. I've got to live here. So that was one of the first decisions that I made that was really following my heart, or that internal compass was telling me, you need to leave. You need to go out on your own. You need to create your own practice for yourself, something that feels authentic to you. And of course, I was scared to death.
Sure.
To death, because we didn't have a safety net. My husband was a firefighter. It wasn't like we had money to fall back on. But I fortunately went to a Florida bar meeting, an annual meeting, and there was a booth set up there that was the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys.
How about that?
And Jonathan Metz was there. And Jonathan talked to me and asked me to come to a workshop. And I thought about it, and something about it was intriguing to me. And I went and heard Rick Randall and I think Scott Overdorf.
Yep.
And I had never done a trust before. I hadn't done estate planning, but I was so intrigued by it. It just felt right to me. And that's how I met you. That's how I got into the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys and decided to shift my focus to nothing but estate planning at that time, which was another big decision because remember, I was supporting us at this point, supporting this new practice, and I was having to say no. particularly to divorce cases. I had to make up my mind that I won't have time, I won't have the focus that I need to learn how to do this and to do it well if I'm still handling these divorce cases.
Two
Exactly.
women in Lake City
Yeah, I know.
specializing in
I
estate
know.
planning
Yep.
in the same practice. It's getting nuts. I'm just saying
Right.
you're pushing the bounds of reality.
However, my very wise coach said, think outside of the borders, just think outside of the box and really put down what your dreams would be. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest gifts that I was given, which was just a horrible, horrible thing for everyone. And of course, it was bad for me too, but was COVID. Why was that such a blessing for me? Because it forced people onto Zoom. It forced people into learning how to use their computer, learning how to communicate with their family through FaceTime or whatever. And it forced my elderly clients to get comfortable with that. And that was the big shift that allowed me to seamlessly move to Virginia and continue my practice. Because I have a telephone here that's hooked up to my telephone in the office. I've got the computer. My clients who want to meet, if they want to meet with me badly enough, they're going to meet with me via Zoom. We have a Zoom room in the office for people to come into the office and meet with me, or they can meet with me from their home. And it has been seamless. I've still got my full team around me. They're just 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But this is
it's
really,
working great.
let's spend some time, if you're okay with this, talking about your lifetime legacy statement. Does that work for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Happy to.
Yeah. So this is this is important. So in at the core of the podcast, at the core of our company, at the core of the Atticus community is a question, which is, what is a great practice and what's a great life look like to you? And at the core of that is kind of a personal mission statement that we call a lifetime legacy statement. Now, you have worked with an outside organization to hone yours to a whole different um, level. And it was a really good conversation that you and I had, because I really am starting to appreciate that sometimes in our materials and sometimes in our programs, we go too fast. We don't let people have time to actually agonize and suffer through certain parts of this. And part of this is the lifetime legacy statement. So I'm going to define it for how I see it. I'm going to let you add on a definition of how you see it. And then let's talk about what you created and how that's impacted your thinking. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So as you're listening to this, a lifetime legacy statement is usually a simple 3 or 4, 6-sentence statement. I say it has to pass what I call the tombstone test. It literally has to fit on your tombstone. And like size wise, because as lawyers, sometimes we will incorporate by reference the Constitution, the Bible, the Quran. These are all the important things to us as value statements. And we reference those things. And we will make this massive mission statement. But the truth is, we really need to simplify it to give us guideposts, because the more that you grow, the more opportunities to come to you, the more you have to narrow your focus, the more you have to say no to say yes to bigger things that are in alignment with your great life. What is your great life? What's your purpose in your life? What you're stating the purpose of your life to be? And that becomes, at least for me, a true north for decision making, a light in the fog of indecision. Where am I trying to go at the end of my life, looking back? What do I want my family to say? What do I want my kids to say? What do I want my friends to say? What do I want my colleagues to say? What do I want my spouse to say? And what do I want to be said about me? How would you add something to that as a definition of a lifetime legacy statement? What would you say?
You have to get really clear on what you care about. And that takes time. That takes a lot of thought. And I don't think that it's something that you can do in a classroom type setting. I think you have to take it seriously enough that you take it home with you and you really spend some quiet time with it. And you jot down the things that you care the most about, who you want to be and who you try to be, who you want to serve. And that was my first focus, was who and what do I care about? And the easy ones popped up for me. First and foremost, my family. My wonderful husband who has put up with me for 35 years. And he's just fabulous and has been a wonderful partner for me. And my son and my grandchildren and my extended family. That's huge for me. And I'm so glad that I now have the time to really focus on them and spend with them.